Alright, hey, what is up everybody? My name is Brian with Bluefoot Homestead. I want to do something a little bit different. If you don't know by now, I like to do things a little bit different than the normal person. So I want to actually tell you guys a story today. Kind of what's going on in the world, to put it in a completely different perspective that maybe some other people might be able to relate to a little bit better and understand it a little bit better. So the whole world and our country is kind of like a company. So I want to talk about this and kind of explain things on what's going on to give an idea. Most people know what's going on, but I was just kind of thinking about this at work tonight and just kind of laughing like it's so much the same. But almost like a World Fight Club company is what the world is. Kind of think about it. Okay, so like 100 years ago, we had basically a CEO of the company. To say it right off, that would be England. Okay, that was at that point kind of an old tired dog in the game. They have been the world power for a long time. They've been the CEO of the company for a long time, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So there were lots of managers within the company, upscale managers and executive managers and stuff like that. And there was one specifically that thought he could do it better than everybody else. He could run the company in his own way better than everybody else. And to get into the CEO position for him would be extreme measures, because the CEO was not one to give it up. So he was willing to do mass murders, kill millions of people to try to get his headway closer to that CEO position. Now, I'll spread these out a little bit more, but that would be Germany, and we know who led Germany in World War II. Maybe 80 years ago, but so after that, he obviously failed at that. There was the big brawl fight within this company to try to get that CEO position. So nobody was really getting it. And one of the managers was just kind of sitting off to the side. They weren't really wanting to get involved too much. Just watching it from a distance, they were involved a little bit, but mostly the whole brawl was over to another area. And he was just kind of minding his own business. And then out of the blue, one of these young managers comes up and just sucker punches this guy right in the face. So he kind of stood back a little bit and thought about it. Figure, okay, well, if we're going to get sucker punched, I'm going to do him in. Then he was able to do an amazing thing. He basically snapped his fingers, actually twice, and vaporized that person that sucker punched him. Okay, now, if you didn't figure it out, I'm talking about Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in the United States. So, after that, and we were able to basically vaporize tens of thousands of people on each, basically, snap of the fingers, just about that easy. Everybody stopped. The whole fight stopped all across the company, and they all looked over at this person that just did something completely crazy. And they figured, okay, if that's going to be a punishment to messing with some people, I'm out. I'm out. And everybody said, okay, I'm out. I'm not going to fight for this CEO position. You obviously have all the power. You obviously are the great one here, so here it is yours. So that person moved into power. Now around that time, there was also a very young person that came into the company. He's been kind of out there doing his own things, but he said, you know, I want to be a company leader. I want to be a CEO. And let's just say he was maybe 16 years old at this point. Now I'll come back around to him. After we got or after that person, I'm going to have a hard time bouncing back and forth here, but after that person got into a CEO position, there were other managers that were wanting that position. That's why they were there in the fight. They were wanting to get that CEO position and hold the power for the whole company. So one of them was just about as powerful, and he saw the owner that, or the manager that got that CEO position, snap his fingers, and they instantly figured out what he did and replicated it. So they were able to have that same kind of power to instantly vaporize people, and they felt that they deserved that CEO position. It doesn't make that other person special that got it. But it was kind of a unanimous vote for that person to take the position, so they're in the position now. Well, there's a little bit of animosity from some of the other managers. You know, this is kind of a normal thing, because they didn't get that position. They felt left out, undercut, whatever the deal is. So fast forward about 50 years or so, that manager that got kicked off to the side has been practicing. They have been perfecting their vaporization of people. They have perfected the use of it. They've made it stronger. They have built up a lot of support for this. And because it's a brawl within the company, to keep it kind of, you know, get a picture in your mind, he's been working out. That person's been going to the gym. They're ripped. They've been sitting there boxing. They're ready for the fight. And they decide to go ahead and re-challenge that first person that got the CEO. Now, who I'm talking about here is Russia. And this would be basically the Cold War. They came in to challenge. And it was basically like he took the CEO out the back door, stood nose to nose with them, sweating on each other's faces, yelling at each other. And the CEO said, "Hey, stand back, because I can do this. I can snap my fingers and basically make you disappear and make half of your big cities disappear." And he said, "Well, you know what? I can do the same thing." And this is what was going on in the Cold War. So the only thing that really changed it is when they're out in the back, nose to nose, arguing about who should be CEO, he said, "Not only can I vaporize half a city at one time, I can shoot lasers out of the sky and vaporize even more, including your attempt to try to vaporize us." I said, "Whoa, I didn't know about that. I didn't hear about that." So then he backed down, and that's when the Cold War stopped, and basically the Soviet Union became Russia at that point, became Russia again. Now, the person that got into the CEO position wasn't ready for the position. They were happy with where they were. They had their own supervisors and lower managers under them. Everybody was happy. Everybody was getting a good paycheck. There was no reason for them to bump up into that CEO position. It was just kind of handed to them by fate or luck, or any way that you want to look at it. But it was kind of handed to them. So most of us know, if you work with inexperienced, poor managers, kind of how things go. And this CEO basically started micromanaging. They started being a little bit of a bully to the other managers. He would come, or he, she, they, anything, I'm just kind of making this up as I go, would say, "Hey, if you don't do what I ask, I'll punish you." And that CEO would do, you know, whether it was basically go over to their desks, take all their money, take all their supplies, and put them off in the corner and lock them in a room for a long time. It's kind of one thing that they would do, like with sanctions. You get somebody that's really bad that even comes up and starts yelling at the CEO. Well, guess what? I'm going to take you out back. I'm going to pound on you a little bit. I'm going to rough you up. And then I'm going to send you down to the mailroom in a dark place, you know. On top of that, I'm going to cut off all your pay, and you're going to work for free for quite some time. For instance, Iraq, Afghanistan, people that have kind of challenged us. I mean, Iraq, I know. But that's kind of what this CEO is doing. Now, that happens a lot these people are going to start getting ticked off. You know, if you keep stealing money from people as a CEO, in your employees, in your managers, and you start taking things away because maybe they didn't agree with something that was in one of the statements, a memo, email, something like that, and they just happen to disagree with, okay, well, whatever, make up your situation. I'm not a business person, but I know kind of how things go. They start getting ticked off after a while. You know, I mean, think about it in your case. If your boss came up to you and said, okay, well, you're no longer going to make $20 an hour, you're going to make $7 an hour, whether you like it or not, because I need more money, because I have expensive habits and I need a new yacht. It's going to tick you off, especially after it happens 40, 50, 100, 200 times. You're going to have enough. Now we have these managers in this company, in the upscale managers, the executive managers and the top tier in that circle at the conference room, are starting to get a little bit ticked off. And every once in a while they kind of retaliate, but the CEO's been in a position to where, yeah, he knows some jiu-jitsu, he knows how to fight, he can take care of his own means. So whenever somebody comes up to challenge him, all right, let's walk out back, thump, thump, thump. Be quiet, quit trying to undermine me, quit trying to tell me I'm doing the wrong thing, get back to your desk, and guess what? You get a pay cut. So this is how the CEO is running it. Now, I mentioned before, 100 years ago, there was a young kid that came in. He came into the business just as a bag boy, as a register person, you know, a cash register. I'm not sure exactly what they're called. But came in just in entry level. Decided to apply to be a supervisor. They kind of liked the kid. He became a supervisor. Then he went to the CEO and he said, hey, you know what? I have, 5 kids. I'm taking care of my mother. I'm just not making enough to take care of myself and take care of the family and stuff like that. I need a little bit more, and, I'm going to do a good job. I know you like me. So give me a chance here, let me into the management and see what I can do. If everything's good, that would be great, yada, yada. So they're like, yeah, well, okay, you're not really qualified for it quite yet, but we're going to go ahead and give you a shot. So he gets into management, and as soon as he gets into management, he breaks into the HR department. Steals all of the records, steals all the information and personal information on the CEO, steals how everything works in management through HR, breaks into the CEO's office, steals a whole bunch of his stuff, copies the hard drives off his computer, so he has all the business deals, he has all the financial records. He gets absolutely everything, and nobody knows that he did it. So he's sitting here down in this management position and says, this is all great, but I would definitely like to move up. Now, in the meantime, he is studying everything. He has gotten the lawyers from the CEO's company to help him out, going through every single letter on every single document, memorizing it, perfecting it better than the company has, and having the lawyers to find loopholes in the system that's currently there to benefit himself. So he ends up finding lots of different loopholes and basically goes into the CEO's office and says, okay, I know you're taking money from us, because the CEO takes money from everybody. Says, I know you're taking money from us, and I'll let you do that, but you're only going to take half, and you're going to let me take more money from you. And he says, well, there's absolutely no way that's going to happen, because that's not the way it works. So kind of retaliated a little bit to, put this younger manager down and put him back in his place. And he says, well, actually, you know what? No, I have this document from my lawyer, a letter here. Let me give it to you to say that I can absolutely do that and you cannot do anything about it. Looked it over and he said, well, yeah, had his lawyers look it over and said, yeah, this is legit. So You might take $50 from me, but I'm going to take $200 from you. So this young manager would be China. And this situation that I'm explaining right now is basically some of the things that China has done and gotten into the World Trade Organization. We helped that whole process happen. Now, they can trade with us completely, but we're not allowed to trade with them. So see kind of how this is? So it puts that young manager into a certain place of power. Now, he wants that CEO position. You know, he's wanted it for 50, 80, 90 years or so now. He's wanted to get into that position. And he's putting together a good plan to be able to, pardon me real quick, go chase Mousie's my little kitty. Okay, so back to the young manager and the CEO. So the young manager has basically all this stuff, and he's shown some of his other colleagues. He's shown some of the other employees and some of the other managers like, hey, I have this. This guy up top can't do much. So if you think that I might have a better way of doing things, why don't we sit down and talk? So that manager did and was able to get some people on his side. Now, one of the big players is a manager that got put off to the side earlier. Russia. Let's just say manager Russia or Russia manager, either way. And he's been wanting to get into that position for a long time as well. Well, now this young manager and the Russia manager, the China manager and the Russia manager, have a lot in common. They have the same beliefs. They have the same political statue. They have a lot in common. So, of course, they go ahead and they get together. They start talking about things, and they're like, well, this guy's been screwing us on our paychecks. He's been taking money from us for a long time. Why don't we do our own thing? So they get together with other countries and other managers to get a coalition together to make their own payroll system, to where they don't have to get the money through that CEO who's kind of been bullying everybody around. They're going to do it themselves. So they're able to get Brazil, India, South Africa, Russia, China together, all these different managers, to say, okay, we can take care of ourselves. We can get into the system. We can pay ourselves, and we can do this right. We can, back it with things, but we're not going to be ripping people off. So let people know about it. So they start spreading the word like, hey, you're getting ripped off by this guy. We have a better system, we believe, and we're not going to rip you off. We're going to go ahead and pay you fairly, let you get any sort of currency that you want for your paycheck. So on top of that, this manager has also been busy already putting together his management team, BRICS, in a whole system together. So whenever he gets that CEO position, he's going to hit the ground running because he's confident he's going to be able to get that position. So this little manager has been for 100 years. Maybe he started like Rocky back in the day. That's a bad analogy. Maybe he started like Bruce Lee back in the day, in the meat locker, sitting here working out, punching the slabs of meat. So he's been working for a very long time through this whole process to be a dang good fighter. Now, since he was able to go up to the CEO and say, you're going to take less from me and I'm going to take more from you, he was able to get that money and build up his fighting power. Able to build up, how can I put this as an analogy? Your boxing skills. Get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Learn knife fighting skills. Learn all the skills that you possibly need to be able to take that bigger bully, that bigger person that's on top of you, that's been picking on you for a long time, to be able to take him down. And that's also going to include his posse and a whole gang of people. Now you have this Russian manager who's buff, ripped, big fighter, scrapper. You have China, who's more than able to do it. Now he's not necessarily going to want to fight. He's going to want to try to outsmart that CEO and make him give up or something along those lines. But he also has other people. Now there's also this young kid that's been hanging out on the sidelines. Is kind of a crackhead. He always goes out back and smokes weed. You know, he's just kind of a loser in most ways, but the guy knows how to use a knife, and he can do a lot of damage with a knife, and that would be North Korea, that manager. So he's getting together this team of many different managers to take on the head CEO. Now, the head CEO, 100 years ago, after he was able to take that position away from England, was able to put together his own little posse as well, which would be NATO. His whole group of world managers to make sure that things kind of stay in place, kind of like a police force. Now, the China manager also has their own police force. They also went through these loopholes in the system of the company to be able to infiltrate into different things. Able to buy purchases of the company, buying land in the US, infiltrate their own police departments into the CEO's office. You know, he's at the point where he can walk in and say, yo, CEO, I'm hanging up a picture of my wife right in front of your desk. Don't like it? Don't care. Here's the law saying I can do it. So this is kind of the way that he's doing it, even though it's not a necessary threat to the CEO. Slowly infiltrating all these little things into that CEO's life to either drive him crazy or make the whole process easier when he does decide to take over, so it's home sweet home for him, or many different scenarios. So basically at this point, kind of where we're at in this world right now, we have the main CEO that's in charge. That's the world power, that's the United States. We have our posse of NATO. We have these 32 different countries right now on our side willing to fight for us. And then you have China, who's been this upcoming thing that we kind of liked for a long time, where we realized, oh, we kind of screwed up giving this guy so much power. Because they own everything in the country right now. They own this camera that I'm filming this on, this table, these right here, this jacket. I guarantee I could probably find, actually it's Marlboro from way back when. I wonder if it is actually made in China. It would not surprise me if it wasn't, but I can't find the tag on it right now. I'm just gonna assume that was made in America, but pretty much everything is made in China. We all know this. So he has infiltrated his fingers through the whole company and has control over most of the managers, every single supervisor, and every single employee pretty much around the world. He has control over all this, and he knows it, and he has this on his side. But he also has his posse. So it's basically, to keep on the analogy that, you know, this China manager is marched upstairs to the penthouse, opened the door to the penthouse, down the hallway is the CEO's office. And he's standing at the end of the hallway right now, basically with his arms crossed, with, I don't know how many people are really on their side, but a couple damn big bodyguards, some financial experts, some lawyers, all these people on his side, basically ready to go. And down in the office, we have our 32, 33, including us, I think it's 32, people on our side. And we're all kind of sitting down and talking right now on, okay, well, how's this giant brawl going to go down? How is this possible attempt to take over the CEO and eliminate the CEO going to happen? You know, and the Chinese manager's had a plan all along. He's been doing all these things for the last 100 years because he already knew what his plans were. His plans were written by his great-great-grandfather, and it's only been perfected generation after generation till it landed into Xi Jinping's hands. And he has even perfected it a little bit more. He has a gigantic military. He owns so much of the materials that go around the world. He is even doing more and more by the day, by more control over different types of commodities like oil and gold. So, I mean, just recently, it's been, that China manager marched down that hall, knocked on the door and said, hey, just want to talk, just try to figure some of this out, and walked back disappointed, not really happy with anything, and went back to his group of managers and said, okay, we got to figure something out here because I don't think I got very far with this guy. And then the CEO comes out and says, hey, we're going to fight climate change. So that's kind of where we stand. It's really close. I mean, we're all on the same floor. The brawl's ready to go down. We have these little proxy wars that are going on, and I say little kind of loosely, but it's basically like managers fighting upon managers. And we might sit there and antagonize one of the managers below the CEO to say, okay, this guy's got a problem over here. He's not following the rules. Go take care of the problem. And they get into a squabble and they start fist fighting, and then next thing you know, there's a solution and one person's hurting and bloodied up and the other one comes back and says, yo boss, I took care of the problem. So we have this happening all the time. Now let me go all the way back to the very first battle. That first battle affected everybody. You had the CEOs clashing, you had the managers clashing like crazy. So everybody in that company, even if you weren't involved with it, there was glass flying by you, there was an occasional hammer going by, whatever. There were other people that got hurt. There were a lot of just regular grunt employees that lost their lives. Lots of people lost their lives on that, from under every single manager, depending on what department you might be in. So since then, it has just been small little squabbles. The whole company in a whole hasn't been affected. Well, going all the way up to the top of the penthouse, it's going to get rough, and it's going to all go down through the whole building, through the whole company, and this is going to affect everybody in the company. So to kind of sum it up, obviously you know what I'm talking about at this point. And if you got to this point, I appreciate it, because I'm having a little bit of fun, kind of letting my brain, my messed up brain on how I think of things, leak out onto a video. So I appreciate you getting this far. But it is going to affect every person in the world when this happens. We're already starting to look at a world economic crash in a way, a world recession. China's going into a recession. Different countries are going into a recession. We have these squabbles with Ukraine and Russia. We have, Israel, all these different things going on, Afghanistan, Panama, all these different places throughout the last 100 years that we've had these squabbles. Now even, the Korean War, Vietnam, things like that, that has been a battle between managers, not with the CEO. Now the CEO is getting threatened. So we have this clash of titans that's about to happen. Now, there was something else I was going to bring up that already slipped my mind. Yeah, well, if I think about it, I'll bring it back up here in a minute. But, we got this big clash. This is going to be really big. And even just to mention, the CEO has already put out a statement saying this battle is going to happen. We have these adversaries that are coming at us, and this is going to be the big brawl of all bar brawls coming up. And also the thing is this China manager that's coming up is saying, I'm able to take your spot, Mr. CEO. There's only a couple things in my way of actually stepping into your office, booting you out the window, sitting down and lighting up a cigar and victory. And one of those major things is another manager that's on your side, that partners with you, that is something I need to take care of, and that is Taiwan. So once I can take Taiwan, I can have even more power over this whole company. I can start multiplying my power in different sectors of the company and make it that much easier to take over. Now, he knows the power of that manager at Taiwan. The CEO knows the power of Taiwan, and he's saying, no, this is my manager. He is contracting with us, and we are doing business with us. And the Chinese manager is saying, no, he used to work for my division. He belongs to me, and I'm taking him back to my side. So there's that conflict right there. Nobody's willing to give, and they are going to be fighting out back, downstairs in the lobby. They're going to be fighting over this manager on who gets control over this manager, because this manager is one of the best technical people, one of the best financial people. They hold a lot of power to be able to shift this situation and the odds to either side here in their favor. So yeah, that's the way it's going to be going down. I just kind of figured I'd kind of show you what's going on in my mind. I figured I'd have a little bit of fun and do something a little bit different for a video. And I don't know, let me know if you liked it or not. It's just a little bit of a different analogy to kind of explain what's going on, because a lot of people work in a business, a lot of people work in an office, and they can relate to kind of the unfairness in management and the way managers take care of things, the way CEOs take care of things, and how CEOs switch power sometimes, and then it changes everything in the company when they do that. And they can relate to that kind of atmosphere instead of worrying about all the geopolitical stuff all the way around the world and trying to keep track of all these things that are going on. So right on. That was kind of fun for me to do. Kind of fun to think about things in a different way. Let me know if you like it. Leave a comment. I guess that's about it. So till next time, thanks for watching. Peace.